Single dad took in a lost boy and his ailing grandma. Next morning, a black SUV changed his life. The rain hammered against the diner windows as Marcus wiped down the counter for the third time that evening. At 32, he'd grown accustomed to the rhythm of single fatherhood and long shifts at Joe's diner. But tonight felt different. Thunder rolled across the darkening sky, and something in his chest tightened with unexplained anxiety. "Dad, can we go home now?" his son Tommy called from the corner booth, surrounded by homework papers and half-eaten fries. "Just finishing up, buddy. 5 more minutes." Marcus had been working double shifts for 3 months straight, ever since his landlord raised the rent. Every penny mattered, every hour counted. His ex-wife had left when Tommy was 2, and he'd been doing this alone ever since, working, cooking, helping with homework, trying to be both mother and father to a boy who deserved so much more than this cramped existence. That's when the door burst open. A small boy no older than 7 stumbled inside, soaked to the bone. Behind him, an elderly woman shuffled in, her face pale and drawn, one hand clutching her chest, the other gripping a worn canvas bag. Marcus dropped his cloth and rushed over. "Ma'am, are you all right?" The woman's knees buckled. Marcus caught her just before she hit the floor, guiding her gently to the nearest booth. The little boy's eyes were wide with terror, tears mixing with rainwater on his cheeks. "Grandma, please," the boy cried. "Please don't leave me. Not like Mama and Papa. Tommy, get some water," Marcus ordered, already loosening the woman's collar. Her breathing was shallow and labored, her lips tinged with blue. He grabbed his phone and dialed 911, his hands shaking as he tried to remember the first aid training he'd taken years ago. The woman's eyes fluttered open, focusing on Marcus with desperate intensity. "My grandson, Samuel, please. They'll take him, foster care. He's already lost so much." "Don't talk, ma'am. Help is coming. Just breathe." The ambulance arrived within minutes, sirens wailing through the storm. 2 paramedics rushed in with equipment, checking vital signs and asking rapid-fire questions. Marcus explained what little he knew while Samuel clung to his grandmother's hand, sobbing. "She needs immediate hospitalization," the lead paramedic said grimly. "Cardiac event, possibly a heart attack. We need to move now." "What about the boy?" the second paramedic asked, looking around. "Is there family we can call?" "I'm all he has," the woman whispered weakly from the stretcher, reaching for Samuel. "My daughter and son-in-law. Car accident. 6 months ago. Just us now. Please, my grandson. Don't let them take him to strangers." Marcus looked at the terrified child clinging to his grandmother's hand. He saw his own son standing nearby, eyes wide with concern, and in that moment, the decision made itself. It was reckless. It was probably illegal, but it was right. "He'll stay with me," Marcus heard himself say, "until you're better. I promise I'll keep him safe." The grandmother's eyes filled with gratitude and relief before they loaded her into the ambulance. Samuel watched it disappear into the rainy night, his small body shaking with silent sobs. That night, Marcus's small 2-bedroom apartment felt even smaller. He gave Samuel a warm shower, found some of Tommy's old clothes that almost fit, and made grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner. Samuel barely touched his food, staring at the table with hollow, haunted eyes. "Your grandma's strong," Marcus said softly, though his own heart was heavy with doubt. "The doctors will take good care of her. That's what they said about my mom and dad," Samuel whispered, his voice barely audible. "Before the accident, they said they'd be fine. Then they never came home." Marcus's heart cracked open. He reached across the table and squeezed the boy's small, cold hand. "I know you're scared. I know the world has hurt you. But you're safe here. I promise you that." Tommy, who had been unusually quiet all evening, suddenly pushed his favorite stuffed bear across the table to Samuel. It was worn and faded, with one eye missing. A gift from Tommy's mother before she left. "Mr. Buttons helps when I'm scared," Tommy said earnestly. "He's magic. He can stay with you tonight, and maybe forever if you want." For the first time since entering the diner, Samuel's lips curved into the smallest, most fragile smile. He hugged the bear close, and Marcus had to look away to hide his tears. The next morning, Marcus called in sick to work, something he never did, something he couldn't afford to do. He made pancakes from scratch, helped both boys get dressed, and was planning their day when a sharp knock echoed through the apartment. His stomach dropped. Through the peephole, he saw two people in dark suits standing in the hallway. Beyond them, through the window, a black SUV was parked on the street below, official and ominous. His hands trembled as he opened the door. Marcus Chen? A woman with kind eyes but an official demeanor held up a badge. "I'm Sarah Mitchell from Child Protective Services, and this is Detective James Moreno. May we come in?" Marcus's world tilted. "I can explain. We'd appreciate that, Mr. Chen." The next 20 minutes felt like an interrogation. Why had he taken in a child without contacting proper authorities? Did he understand the legal implications? Where exactly was the grandmother? What were his intentions? His living situation? His background? Samuel emerged from the bedroom, clutching Mr. Buttons tightly. When he saw the official-looking strangers, he ran behind Marcus, grabbing fistfuls of his shirt. "Please don't take him away," Samuel begged, his voice rising with panic. "Marcus is nice. He gave me food and a bed and he didn't hurt me. Please." Miss Mitchell's expression softened considerably, but her voice remained. "Professional. Samuel, honey, no one's taking anyone away right now. We just need to understand what happened. You're not in trouble and neither is Mr. Chen. We just want to make sure you're safe." Detective Moreno stepped forward, and Marcus noticed his eyes were glistening with unshed tears. "Mr. Chen, I need to tell you something important. We've been looking for Samuel and his grandmother, Eleanor Hayes, for 3 days." Marcus's blood ran cold. "What?" "They went missing after leaving County Hospital, where Mrs. Hayes was being treated for a deteriorating heart condition. Her medications ran out, she became confused and disoriented, and they ended up wandering in the rain, lost. We had officers searching everywhere. Shelters, hospitals, transit stations. Her doctor said without proper medication and care, she wouldn't survive much longer." The detective's voice caught with emotion. "You saved their lives last night, both of them." The room spun. Marcus sat down heavily on his worn couch. Ms. Mitchell continued gently. "Mrs. Hayes is stable now at Memorial Hospital, but she'll need weeks of intensive treatment and recovery. She has no other family, very limited resources, and no home to return to. She'd been staying in a week-to-week motel before this happened. Under normal circumstances, Samuel would need to go into temporary foster care while we sort things out and ensure his grandmother can eventually provide adequate care." "No!" Samuel's scream pierced the air. "Not foster care, not with strangers. Please, Marcus, don't let them take me. I'll be good. I promise I'll be so good." Tommy appeared in the doorway, tears streaming down his face. "Dad, Samuel's my brother now. We can share everything. My room, my toys, my food. I don't need much. Please don't let them take him." Marcus looked at his son, his kind, generous, beautiful son who had so little but was willing to give everything. Then he looked at Samuel, trembling with a fear no child should ever know. He thought about his own journey, his wife leaving when Tommy was 2, the struggles, the lonely nights, the constant fear of not being enough, of failing his child. But he also thought about love, about family, about the unexpected ways life brings people together when we're brave enough to open our hearts. "What if I wanted to foster him?" Marcus blurted out, officially, temporarily until his grandmother can care for him again. "What would that take?" Ms. Mitchell and Detective Moreno exchanged meaningful glances. "There's a process, Mr. Chen," Ms. Mitchell said carefully. "Background checks, home studies, financial assessments, paperwork. It typically takes weeks, sometimes months." "I'll do it all," Marcus interrupted, his voice growing stronger with conviction. "Whatever it takes, however long it takes. I'm not wealthy, but I'm steady. I work hard, I love my son, and I already care about Samuel. I can give him stability and safety while his grandmother heals." Detective Moreno smiled, pulling out a folder. "Your record's clean, Mr. Chen. You're employed, you're a dedicated father, and you've already demonstrated extraordinary compassion. I'll personally expedite this process." Over the following weeks, Marcus's life transformed into an overwhelming whirlwind of paperwork, home visits, and court appearances. His boss at the diner, moved by the story, gave him flexible hours and even raised his pay slightly. His neighbors, learning what happened, donated clothes, toys, books, and supplies for Samuel. The local community rallied around this single dad who'd opened his heart to a lost child, organizing meal trains and offering childcare. Eleanor Hayes, from her hospital bed, wept with gratitude when Marcus visited with Samuel every other day. "You're an angel," she whispered, squeezing his hand with surprising strength. "I was so scared he'd end up alone in the system, like I was at his age. I know what that does to a child's soul." "He's not alone," Marcus assured her firmly, "and neither are you. We're in this together now." 3 months later, Eleanor was released to a rehabilitation facility. Her prognosis was cautiously optimistic, but she'd need ongoing cardiac care and supervision. The courts granted Marcus temporary guardianship of Samuel, with Eleanor's wholehearted blessing and involvement in all major decisions. Samuel had blossomed. His nightmares became less frequent. His smile came more easily. He and Tommy were inseparable, true brothers in every way that mattered. But the real miracle came on an ordinary Tuesday evening in late autumn. The black SUV appeared again outside the apartment building. Marcus's heart jumped, but this time he recognized Detective Moreno behind the wheel. He stepped out with Ms. Mitchell, both wearing broad smiles and carrying official-looking documents. "Mr. Chen, we have extraordinary news," Ms. Mitchell said, her voice trembling with excitement. Mrs. Hayes's case was featured in a local news story about community kindness. A philanthropist, someone who prefers to remain anonymous, saw it and was deeply moved by your selfless actions. He's established a substantial trust fund for Samuel's education and future, and he's arranged for Mrs. Hayes to have permanent, high-quality care in Meadowbrook Assisted Living, one of the finest facilities in the state, where Samuel can visit whenever he wants. Marcus staggered backward, catching himself on the doorframe, unable to process what he was hearing. Detective Moreno continued, his voice thick with emotion. "There's more, Marcus. This benefactor investigated your situation. A single father, working multiple jobs, barely making ends meet while opening your home to others. He was so impressed by your character that he's paid off all your debts, established college funds for both Tommy and Samuel, and..." He paused, pulling out a thick envelope. "He's offering you the general manager position at his restaurant group. Better hours, triple your current salary, full health insurance for your whole family, and a housing allowance." I can't..." Marcus couldn't form words. Tears streamed down his face. "Because kindness deserves kindness," Ms. Mitchell said simply, her own eyes wet. "And because you proved that family isn't just about blood or DNA or legal documents, it's about love, sacrifice, and showing up when it matters most." That evening, as Marcus tucked both boys into bed, Tommy in his room, Samuel in what was now permanently his room, he marveled at how one rainy night had changed absolutely everything. "Dad?" Tommy called out sleepily. "Do you think we were supposed to find Samuel that night, like it was meant to be?" Marcus thought about chance and choice, about the randomness of rain and the deliberateness of opening your door and your heart. "I think sometimes we find exactly who we need, exactly when we need them. And sometimes, if we're very brave, we choose love even when it's hard." Samuel appeared in the doorway, Mr. Buttons tucked under his arm. "Marcus, can I ask you something important?" "Anything, kiddo. When Grandma gets stronger, if I have to go live with her again, can I still visit you every day? Can I still call you my family? Can Tommy still be my brother?" Marcus knelt down and pulled both boys into a tight embrace, his heart so full it felt like it might burst. "Samuel, you're my family now. Nothing will ever change that. Whether you're here, with your grandma, or anywhere in the world, you're my son. Both of you are my sons. Forever and always." And in that moment, in a cramped apartment that once felt too small for one father and one son, Marcus realized he'd found something infinitely bigger than he'd ever imagined. A family built not from circumstance or biology, but from choice. Built not from necessity, but from love. Built from one simple act of kindness on a stormy night. The black SUV might have changed the practical circumstances of his life, but it was. The bowl of soup he'd offered, the warm bed he'd provided, and the hand he'd extended to a frightened, lost child that had truly changed everything. Sometimes the greatest riches come not from what we receive, but from what we're willing to give, when we have almost nothing left to give.